Hello, and welcome to the How2Exit podcast, where we introduce you to a world of small to medium business acquisitions and mergers. We interview business owners, industry leaders, authors, mentors, and other influencers with the sole intent to share with you what it looks like to buy or sell a business. Let's get rolling. Hello, today I am here with Jeanette Holm. I said Janet, and earlier after we talked, it's Jeanette. Jeanette
Okay.
Holm is an experienced, award-winning entrepreneur with 15 years experience starting, growing, and buying and selling businesses. Jeanette is passionate about building value in a business through innovation, systems, and empowering people so that the business can run itself. She's also successfully done that with all of her previous businesses in Sweden. During her time as an entrepreneur, Jeanette has created almost 10,000 jobs at the same time, over 1,000 employees at a single company. Her core strengths are strategy and vision, leadership, creating systems, order, and healthy finances, increasing shareholder value, and preparing a company for exit. She's currently a founder at Adventos, a small investment firm who buys and rolls up small to medium companies in Europe. Welcome, Jeanette. I'm honored to have you here today.
Oh, thank you. How are you
So
today?
I'm doing good. And sorry about we just did that. I have this. I guess it's a theme. For some reason I butcher everybody's name, no matter how simple it is.
No
Uh,
worries. No worries.
so one of the first things I always like to do is kind of get people to kind of know who you are and where you're from. So just tell us a little bit about kind of who you are, where you're from, what you stand for, and let's just start with that.
Sure. That was a small question. Well, I'm 42. I live in Sweden. I have a beautiful family of a husband and two crazy energetic boys that are 8 and 5. So they take up a lot of my time and energy right now. I started my first company. Well, actually, the first company I started was when I was 19, actually, because we had to take a class in school that basically taught you how to start and run a business. And what we did was that we decided to go to Paris, to an area outside Paris called Les Sentiers, where you could buy clothes really cheaply. So we went there, we partied, we had tons of fun, we bought clothes, and then we came back to Sweden and we sold them for like twice the price. And we were like, wow, this is fun. So we did it again a few times, and we had like a huge fashion show and business. And that was my first encounter with being an entrepreneur. And it was also probably the most fun class I had in school. So I think from there on, I decided that I'm going to be an entrepreneur because this is just way too much fun. And then I actually lived in the States for 5 years. I did my whole university degree in Santa Barbara and San Francisco. Studied international business, and then I worked 1 year in San Diego. And that was a huge experience because I think what you Americans are very good at is to push people forward that wants to go places and give a lot of positive enforcement. And I started reading all these books like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and yeah, tons of books of people just making it and being entrepreneurs and being, yeah, fulfilling their lives dreams and stuff. So when I came back to Sweden, I would say that my confidence had grew a lot. And from there on, I decided I was just gonna be an entrepreneur and make it big like you guys do in the US.
It's interesting. We kind of have a little bit of a similar path. I've never been to Sweden, but I lived
Yeah.
in California for a little while. When I got out of the military, I got an offer to work for Lockheed Martin in California. And being in tech, that's just the place to be, right?
Mm.
So I stayed in California until I've worked in San Francisco. I worked in Redwood City and stuff. But I stayed there until I realized I didn't want to be in tech anymore. And then it didn't matter where I was. And I had family here in the middle of the United States in Oklahoma that needed my help. So I
Mm.
moved here. You've had a series of successes, right? This isn't, you didn't jump into mergers and acquisitions and start buying and selling companies right away. You built
Yeah.
some significant companies too. Uh, why don't you share a little bit about the entrepreneur journey and kind of what led you up into built buying and building as opposed to just building from scratch?
Yeah, so I started my first company when I was 27, and at first I thought I needed to go into tech like everybody else in Sweden. So my first idea was very advanced and hard to get going. I wrote like a 50-page business plan. I talked to investors. I had a lot of partners, and after about 6 months, I realized that it's not doable right now. I don't have the skills, I don't have the money, I don't have the knowledge, and it's too hard to get this going. It will take me years before I see a dime. So I actually found this book that changed the way I look at how you build your first business. And it's an American woman, Laura Langmeyer. You probably heard of her. And the book is called The Millionaire Maker's Guide in Creating a Cash Machine for Life. So, probably the longest book title in the world. But basically, what she said is that the first business that you start has to be something that you know and that you can start making money of in a month. And then your job is to learn how to be an entrepreneur because that's the hard part, to learn all the skills you need to grow a business. So I did. So I went back and I thought, okay, what's the easiest idea I could think of? And she also said that you should look at what you've done previously when you were a kid and that kind of stuff. So, and the second part of the idea is that it has to be an opportunity. So it has to be a simple idea, but also an opportunity. And right there in Sweden, and this was 2007 or 8, yeah, somewhere around there. God, it's so long. Now I keep forgetting. The government came out with these tax deductions for all um, services in the home, like cleaning and gardening and construction and babysitting. So the government pretty much paid half of the fee that the customer paid. And also, there was really no competition. It was a new market. The VAT was zero at the time, and the employee tax of young people had also been cut in half. So it was like a lot of opportunities there. So I gave myself a month to start this company, and it pretty much just exploded. And I think just in the first year we did like a million in sales, and I was pretty much by myself for half that year. So you can imagine how much I worked. But it just grew from there up until we were over like 1,000 nannies and had pretty much half of the market share in Sweden. And I focused a lot on learning to build businesses, which meant I focused on building structure and building a strong culture and making sure my people could work without me and that the business could run without me, which we're going to talk about more later. And after 3 years, I actually put a CEO in place, and then I was pretty much free to do whatever I wanted to. So we didn't lose that much revenue, but it just felt like we were, yeah, hitting our head against the wall, trying everything, and the business wasn't growing anymore. And that's when we first started a cleaning company. And also, I figured that either we're just gonna kind of dwindle or die now, or we grow ourselves out of this crisis. And we decided to grow. And I decided that we needed to start buying companies, even though I had no idea how you did that. So I pretty much posted on Facebook and LinkedIn, hello, I want to buy companies. And then I had like a lot of people reaching out to me. And one of them was our biggest competitor in the nanny business. And we bought that company. And I think that experience was probably the biggest aha moment I had in my entrepreneur career. Because overnight, I pretty much added 25% of revenue to my business. I almost had more cash in the bank than I paid for the company. And the company was doing about 100,000 Swedish kroners in profit per month. Maybe that's like around $12,000 or something. So it was so easy and it was so fast to grow and so cheap. And after that, I'm like, why haven't I done this before? Because growing organically takes a lot of time and energy and effort and resources. And this was just like a snap, and you were a lot bigger and a lot more profitable. So then I started to really get into learning about how you buy businesses, how you build and roll up businesses and create bigger groups. And I then joined the Harbor Club training. I also took Carl Allen's training, and we bought two more businesses. So the first two deals I did were very successful. It was the babysitting group, and it was also a gardening and construction group, and it fitted well into our group. So we now had nanny, cleaning, gardening, and construction services. But then, then I, I don't know if I got cocky or just was high on self confidence, or I don't know. But I decided to buy a toy company, and it wasn't just being cocky because I didn't want to be completely immersed in this political risk that we had with the other companies. I wanted to branch out to other businesses that didn't have the political risk, but I wanted to have a business that our customers still could buy from. So toys, we had a lot of kids families, of course, so toy company made sense. The only problem is I didn't know anything about selling toys online, and the company I bought was way too small, and pretty much everything went wrong. Like the computers went on fire. We had to move the warehouse twice, and after 6 months, I was so fed up with this company that I actually sold it again. And even though it was, probably not such a good deal, I didn't lose that much money, but I lost a lot of time and energy in it. I think I learned the most from it. So I think you have to make some mistakes too in the process to become like good at what you're doing. But then in 2000, I think 17 or no, 2018 or 19, yeah, 19. Okay, yeah, I'm losing the years here. I need to check when I did things. I actually sold all the 5 companies I had left to my 2 CEOs because I felt that I've done this for 12 years and I want to do it in different areas and different industries and learn new things. So I sold it to them, and it was a very fast deal because I wasn't part of any of the daily operations. And they got super happy. I got super happy. The staff was super happy. So it was a really good deal. And since then, I'm pretty much been reading books like crazy, taking courses, and figuring out, what to do next. I want to take a year off first, just to completely relax. But now we're up and running again, and I've joined forces with some other people. One guy from Norway, 2 from the UK, and 1 from Germany. And we come together in the Advantage group. And since everybody wants to do the same, like buying and building groups of companies, we figured that we could just do it together. And we started looking at companies together before this summer. And I think this fall we now closed our first deal, which was a pretty big HVAC company in the UK. And then there's some other deals that's going to close, I think, now in January and February. So it's pretty exciting. But I think I thought I was a really good entrepreneur when I was running my first 5 businesses, but I realized after taking the break and reflecting how much more I could have done. And I also realized when I started to look at buying businesses, what a huge gap it is between the entrepreneurs, how they view the value of their company, and the people that are trying to buy the businesses. And we pretty much look at values completely differently. But for me, it's an advantage to have been on both sides. So I started thinking about, how to bridge this gap, because the reality is that 80% of all businesses for sale, they don't get sold. And that's a shame for all the entrepreneurs that have been, you know, working like crazy and sacrificing a lot to build these nice businesses, but they don't understand how to build value. And from that, I kind of created this this my own kind of definition is I call it the POX formula, because it's the 5 areas that create the most value in a business. And POX stands for profit, owner dependency, cash, size, and structure. So POX and formula. and I've started to write and think more and more about this. And I think if people understood this, that it could bridge the gap, you could sell the business, but you could also get more value from the business.
So you went from like creating businesses,
Yeah.
sorry, stumbled into what they even have a phrase for now. Yeah, I think you might
Mm.
have been doing it before they named it the acquihire, right? Where you acquired to increase revenue, you acquire to hire better, but another staff or whatever. So
Yeah.
you did you did acquisitions to grow, before it was kind of popular at that level. Like big companies have been doing it forever,
Yeah.
but the small to medium companies are just now kind of making that, you know, popular, or at least, you know, publicly, you know, going out and talking about it. I'm sure it's been done on some scale for a long time. And you took what you learned from that and, you know, built what you built, sold it. And it sounds like you actually put together kind of your own little, I don't even call it a venture capital, or your little venture company where you're
Yeah.
teaming
Like
up
with,
with other people. You're buying businesses to grow them. Are you going to do the acquihire to bolt on things to them
yeah, yeah,
and
for sure. Sure. I think, I mean, the PE firm and the venture capitalist industry, they've been doing this for such a long time. And it kind of pissed me off when I realized that they are the ones making all the money. We are the ones, like the entrepreneurs, that creates all the value. And that's another gap that
yeah, there's
we
big
should
there.
close. I think the entrepreneurs, we need to learn how to think smarter and build value so we can actually get paid for everything that we're creating. And it's just a mind shift that I realized when I was at the Harbor Club, how you think about businesses and value creation, and you work from there. So I'm hoping that we will see a lot more entrepreneurs doing this in the future. In Sweden right now, it's crazy with all these PE funds coming out, and even in the stock exchange, like there's one company that started buying construction company 11 months ago, and they're valued at like 16 billion. The stock has gone up 8,000% in like a year. And they're just buying companies. They're not even doing that much. And another company that just went to the stock exchange in like one of the biggest IPOs ever. They just bought companies for 5 years in different industries, like nothing related, and the stock is valued so high. It's like it's crazy. I mean, yeah, there are some has to be some bubbles here right now, but the truth is that we have to understand this. Like the entrepreneurs have to understand this and use this to our advantage, and it could be so much easier for us to build businesses and to get to the next stages if we just also learn how to buy businesses as a growth strategy.
I think it's a huge. Uh, sorry about that. I'm still clearing my throat here from a
Yeah.
cold. I think it's a huge advantage for a couple reasons. That gap is there between like what the PE firms and the institutional buyers are doing, but they're also ignoring a lot of businesses, the small to medium businesses that would be
Yeah.
very valuable to something you and I would build and stuff. So that 1 million to, you know, US dollar, 1 million revenue, you guys call it turnover, or at least they call it turnover in Europe. So 1 million turnover to $10 million turnover doesn't even open up P&E firms or an investment institutional investors' eyes, but it can
No.
make a significant difference to, you know, your HVAC company or one of my companies to bolt on or, you know, merge with or buy one of those, you know, things. So it's a huge opportunity that the small to medium business owners out there, you know, need to be aware of. And the second side of that is, at least here in the United States, we have a an aging business owner population. There's a
Yeah.
huge amount of baby boomers who are in their 70s now, still sitting at the seat as CEO of their business. And they don't have a succession plan. They don't know what they're going to do. And if they don't work with other businesses, other small businesses, and work in this mergers and acquisition space, both you and I are in, there's a huge chance that not only do they go, you know, the business go away, but the jobs that they created go away, the legacy they created goes away. Those employees are out scrounging for something else to do. So I think there's opportunities all over the place inside of this. It's kind of why I jumped from being a real estate investor to doing acquisitions and mergers. Is I see a huge unmet need, and that's a need to maintain jobs, maintain small medium businesses here in the United States, and I see that that's everywhere. So
In the US, you also have, Barack Obama set up this program where you can borrow money to buy businesses for sale, because I think he saw how many businesses are for sale and they're not getting sold. So you can actually borrow money from the government with the government kind of backing it up to
yeah,
buy businesses. I wish we had that in Sweden, but
yeah, they
not.
do a 80-20 here. So if you got
Yeah,
20% down, the Small Business Administration will guarantee it. So it's just it's kind of weird. The banks still loan the money, but it's
Mm.
federally backed by the Small Business Administration. So, um, you could go to one bank and they tell you no, and then go to another bank with the SBA and they would do it. So there is some local bank say in the acquisitions and mergers process for using SBA, but I haven't done it. That would be referred to as a leveraged buyout LBO,
Yeah.
and that's just one of the strategies I'm not interested in.
Yeah, I mean there are several ways to buy businesses, and also depending on what kind of business you want, I guess, how you would do it. But should we talk about the POX formula? Because I think if I explain each area, people will understand what actually drives value in a
Yeah,
business.
that I think that's a great place to go. Business owners really, I think there's a huge disconnect there as what they think their business is worth, and then how to get what they want out of it by aligning with what you or I or any other acquirer, somebody who wants to buy a business, is actually looking for. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's go through the your model there and let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I think to understand where this is coming from is to understand what buyers or companies are actually looking for. And there's two main things. They're looking for opportunities, but they're mostly looking to reduce risk. So when we look at buying companies, we look at the risk factors and see if there are a lot of risks that we can't mitigate or change, and and that could be potentially really fatal going forward. So the first area is of course profits. You want to buy, well, you can also buy this businesses that are not profitable, but that's kind of like another area. I think most buyers look at profitable businesses, and the value of the business is usually set by a multiple of profit. And this multiple depends pretty much on the size, the industry, what you're doing, how fast you're growing, but it's going to be some multiple of profit. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you are as profitable as you can be. And I think it was in Carl Allen's course. I've also seen this formula in all kinds of different books, but there's basically seven levers, I think it's called, of business growth and profitability. And if you just increase each of these levers by 10%, you will increase profit by 158%. So small improvements in each areas will yield a lot of profits. So I'm just going to go through them fast. And if I was a business owner and I had a business, I would jump in and I would see how can I improve each of the levers. Do you say levers? Levers, right?
Levels, right? Are you talking
Yeah.
about lever as in like lift, to to get leverage?
Yeah, leverage.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Lever.
Or
Yeah.
each area or each, yeah, component. So the first component are of course leads. How many leads are coming into your business? And the second component is conversion rate. How many of these leads are being converted into customers? The third lever or component is average transactions per year. So how many times do your customers buy from you per year? And the fourth one is what is the value of each transaction that the customer buy, like the sales amount. Number five is gross profit margin, which is pretty much revenue minus cost of sales or cost of goods sold. Um, Number six is operational overhead as percentage of sales. And number seven is the lifetime value of your customer. So pretty much how much is a customer worth during the entire time that is buying from your company. So say that you take those seven areas or levers, and you increase them by 10%. So 10% more leads, 10% better conversion, 10% better profit margin. Then that would actually yield you 158% more profit. And just doing 10% on each of these areas isn't super hard. I think everybody can do it. And there are even books, I think it's Bradley Sugars, he has even written books about how to like six. I think he has like 60 ideas for each of these levers, how you increase them. But I think it's just coming down to just brainstorming, sitting down and brainstorming. How can we increase this? How can we increase this? So increasing profit is not only about revenue minus costs. It has a lot of other components. Uh, so that's the first thing I would focus on as an entrepreneur. So not just focus on growth, but actually focus on having a really profitable company, especially as you come close to wanting to sell your company. And it's not enough to have really good profits the last year, because most buyers look at the last 3 years, because you want to have like normalized EBITDA. You don't want to buy something where you call it dress the bride in the last year to get more money from it. That feels very weird if you have like profit like this and then the last year is like shoo, super high. And so the last 3 years I would really focus on profit before you sell your company. And now the second area is the O, since it stands for ownership dependency. And I'm so surprised when I've been looking at all these companies that I haven't found a single company where the CEO isn't the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is still the CEO, still the most important person in the company, which pretty much makes your company unsellable, because you, the entrepreneur, are going to walk out the door, and it's going to be huge risk for anybody who's taking over. So it's really important that you have built yourself out of your company and that the company runs without you. How you do this, we're going to talk a little bit further down in structure. But you need to put a management team in place and you need to put a CEO in place. And if you haven't done that, your business is almost unsellable, I would say.
Yeah,
So,
I run into that one too, and one of the biggest
yeah,
concerns I have is it takes time. The 3 years you're talking about, that 3 years could be used to separate yourself away from that. The
yeah,
biggest problem is if I've got a business and it's making, I don't know, $1 million, $2 million a year, and I've got 60 key customers. If you're in there running it day to day operations and you sell it and leave, there's a huge chance a large percentage of those customers are still there because of the relationship with you. And that's
mm,
how they see it. So now,
yeah,
if you separate yourself away from that and you run it at a distance for a while, they'll actually learn. And a lot of people are worried about this, but I think in most cases, the other owners, the owners of the customer companies, the customers will learn they're not there because of the owner. They're there because of the value the business provides to them. So you
yeah,
got to dispel that myth that's there, that is on the other side. Your customer believes he's there because I want to do business with, Jeanette. And and it's not the truth. Like, I want to do business with, your business. So yeah, I think that's huge. And I'd say I was just laughing when you said that because um, I just went through an ordeal where we talked to over 200 business owners in less than 6 months, probably less than 4 months. And even inside of those, some of these are doing five, six, $10 million a year. The only in one or two cases was the owner even trying to separate himself. In
yeah.
almost every case, they were in the mix.
Yeah, and I looked at businesses where the whole business was the owner and his wife. That was it. And if they sell, then they're gone, and there's nothing left. There's no value, and the risk is huge. So there you really have like the risk is going to take over, and people are not going to want to buy a company that's that risky. It doesn't matter how good of a profitable, nice company you built.
Right.
The risk is too high. So, so yeah, when we come down to structure, I'm going to talk about how I did it, how I built myself out of my businesses, and there's a lot of good books out there that I used to do it. So we'll come back to that. But C is for cash, and this also has to do a lot with risk. But cash is involved usually when you value business, then the excess cash will go out to the entrepreneur. But if you have a business that's tying a lot of cash, if it requires a lot of working capital to grow, then that's a pretty risky business, because that means that you need more and more money the bigger you get. And what is working capital then? it has three components. It has to do with accounts receivable, so how fast the customers are paying you. So if the customers are paying you fast, then that's really good. If they're paying you slow, that means you're tying up a lot of cash in the business. And it gets even worse if the next component, accounts payable, um, is large too. So accounts payable is money owed out to your suppliers. So if you have a situation where you get paid very slow, but you pay your suppliers very fast, then you're pretty much the bank for your customers and your suppliers, and you're tying up a huge deal of capital in the business.
And so I actually had a roofing company call me up and say, "Hey, are you willing to invest in roofing?" And I'm like, "What are you going to use the money for?" And it said he calls it the float. I was like, "Well,
Yeah,
what's the float?" He goes, I have to pay for my supplies, my labor, and everything, and wait for insurance companies to pay me." And he currently has, a company's doing he's doing about $3.5 million a year in revenue, because small kind of local roofing. um, he ties up anywhere from 500 to $800,000 in cash,
yeah.
waiting for that transaction. And he can't right now. He's at a state where he can't do the next roof because he doesn't have enough cash to go get supplies and pay labor, because he's waiting on a payment. So I can see where that's critical. So
Yeah, and it has to do with the risk, and it also has to do with you having to put in more and more money the larger the business gets. And the third component of the working capital is, of course, inventory. So if you have a lot of inventory that you bought but it's not moving, then you're tying up a lot of cash. And so a lot of times where a lot of the colleagues I have buy businesses, this is the one of the first areas they go and look and see, and usually they can improve all of these three areas and release a lot of cash again. So it could be an opportunity if you see that these companies not doing this very well, but we think we can improve it. Then it's an opportunity. But if it's not, it's a risk, and it's going to devalue your company or make it that nobody wants to buy it. So it's definitely something to look at, like how much cash is being tied up and how what's the cash flow like, because it becomes really dangerous to buy a business and then you don't have any cash flow. And I think most businesses go bankrupt because they don't have any cash, not because they're not profitable. So
yeah, I
so
agree.
definitely
Most
an area.
most most entrepreneurs fail because of cash flow, not because of profitability. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%.
So the next area is size, and this was one of the things I thought was really interesting when I started learning about building groups of companies, because I could take Sweden as an example. I think in the US you have different levels that you get to, but in Sweden, basically, if you have a company that is doing between 0 to 50 million, so $0 to $5 million in revenue, and it's not a tech company, it's a regular company, then it's usually valued around 3 to 5 times profit. If you get above 5 million, and in the US maybe it's 10 million, then all of a sudden the institutional buyers, the financial buyers, they get interested, and just by crossing this line, all of a sudden you're worth 8 to 12 times profit. So the size, so basically, if you would buy two companies that are worth $4 million each and put them together, or maybe three of those, then even if you did nothing, you would have double or triple your money just by becoming bigger. And this is what a lot of the PE firms do too. And this company that went public that I talked about, they just want the size, because then the multiples increases. Uh, and that's why I think a lot of small business owners should really start buying companies to get above the level where the institutional buyers are getting interesting, because then you will get a lot more money than if you try to sell below this line. And that's kind of what you were talking about earlier too. With the So this is very interesting, and the fastest way to grow is to buy other businesses, and it's actually really easy to buy a company. I mean, most of us have bought a house. It's not that much difference. You make a little map, like what kind of companies can I buy, and it could both be, like I did. I bought in the same industry as complementary services that I could cross sell to my customers. but it could also be, similar companies, like we're only buying HVAC companies or only buying software companies. It could also be like, for example, we're buying this gardening company right now, and they're really good at anything green. It's called like green jobs and gray jobs. So jobs are like the where you build the stone walls and the stone in the gardens and stuff, and they are doing the green jobs. And they're turning down a lot of gray jobs because they can't do it. So if we would buy a gray company, a gray garden company, then and we had the green garden company, then we can cross sell those services. Um, so I think you just have to get creative. Like, what kind of business do you want to create? What kind of services does your customers want and need, and how can you help them? And you just go and buy that. And with that, you can buy your future CEOs in your new company, so you can build yourself out of your companies, and you can buy more profit and cash flow and reduce your overhead. So there's a lot of things you can do.
One of
Uh,
the other one of the other plays in that is your suppliers, right? So if you're
yeah, yeah,
maybe go back to one I was looking at about a year and a half ago. If you're a concrete company and you make hinges and doors and stuff like that, then a welding shop, right? Or the rebar, even like the supplier that you have for your rebar. This one concrete company we're looking at, they owe their rebar company a million,
yeah,
$1.5 million, and that owner was aging too. So my game plan was to, once I acquired one, is to reach out to the other and ask, are they interested in doing something? Now you've got a whole nother line of business you can sell to other people, but you
yeah.
actually have one of your key suppliers, you know, to boost your revenue and stuff. So I think that that's an opportunity too.
That's also going to grow, your revenue and your profit because
Mhm.
you have same customers you can sell more to. So it comes back to the seven levers of profitability. And it's fun. Like, you can create your dream company, and you just pick the parts and you buy them, put them together. And after that, you reach out to, you make a list of your dream companies that you want to buy. You reach out to the owner and say, hello, I want to buy your company. And you start talking. And then it's a matter of um, getting to the right terms. And then you do the diligence, where it's kind of like when you buy a house too, that you check that everything is working and is as the owner says. And after that, you're closing and you're signing contracts. And it's not that much harder than that, actually. And there are a lot of courses and a lot of books and a lot of podcasts about how you do this. So I think it's just a matter of changing the mindset of what is possible, and then you just go out and do it.
Awesome. So we were on size.
Yeah,
Uh,
and then the last one is structure, and this is about building a system instead of a company that is dependent on you. So I think there were three books that I used to build myself out of my business. And the first one is E-Myth Revised by Michael Gerber. And that was pretty much has to do with how do you build a McDonald's? Like, how do you build the business that you can copy and copy and copy with the systems and the structure and everything. And that was a really good book. And now I think Mike Michalowicz has come out with a similar book, but a little bit twist on it. That's called Clockwork. And that's also a fantastic book, how to build a business that is not dependent on you. Then another important, what do you call it? You need a structure, but in order to be able for the structure to hold, you also need a very strong company culture. And I think the best book on that is called Built to Last by Jim Collins. And the reason you need a strong culture is, in order for the entrepreneur to have the guts to release all control, you need to be sure that the people you have there in your companies think like you, act like you, have the same values as you, and will represent the company in the way that you do. And I think once you have that in place, it's a lot easier to kind of release the reins and let the other people take over. So for me, the culture and the structure go very much hand in hand. And once you have that, it's not as scary to let go. And on top of that, I think another thing that's really important is to start measuring everything. So you pretty much you're measuring your processes, you're measuring the flow of the business, and you're not just looking at the balance sheet and the income statement, because then it's pretty much too late. Like we were measuring, how many people visit our website, how many people called us, how many people booked an appointment, how many of the appointments became actual, babysitting and customers starting, what's the average, invoice and all that kind of stuff. So we could pretty much in the end see that if 100 people came into our website, that meant this much money in the end. And when you have that kind of measuring flow in the business, you also feel a lot more in control. And it's very easy for the CEO to run that kind of business, because they're going to see, okay, all of a sudden, the people that book appointments, they don't become customers. There's something wrong with the quality here. Okay, then I focus on that. Or all of a sudden, we don't have any leads coming in. What's wrong? And then you focus on that. Um, so you can very quickly see if something is going in the wrong way before you actually see it in the money in the income statement at the end. And that also creates a lot of like calmness for me as the entrepreneur, because I know that I can get weekly reports how the business are doing. I can see all the KPIs, the key measuring points, and I can see that the business is running smoothly. So I think if you're measuring everything, you have it in place, you have your structure, you have the culture, then it's time to find the CEO. And I trained all my CEOs from pretty much the bottom up. So my CEOs had pretty much been on every area of our company. And it's also recommended in the Built to Last book that that's how you should do it, because you want your CEO to be a culture bearer. And they need to understand all facets of your business. And it has worked. It worked very well for me. I tried once to take in an external manager, and it was awful. Like he couldn't help anybody, he couldn't answer questions because he hadn't been there on the floor answering questions, talking to babysitters and customers and that kind of stuff. Um, and also, it's fun. It's fun to take young people and mold them into becoming really good at what they're doing.
On your babysitting business, it's interesting. There's one here, and they probably did it after you, that really became, um, I think they're a national franchise now. It's called Seeking
Yeah.
Sitters.
Mm.
So I don't know if you've ever heard of that one, but it started
Mm.
here in Tulsa, and it
Okay.
was the same model. So I'm wondering if they read an article about you and what you did there, because
Well,
it's
I
it's
think,
it might have been something where like one of the good, and the reason I bring this up is this is a great thing for all our entrepreneurs listening. If you watch articles from other countries and see what's really working there, a lot of times you can apply that here, right?
yeah,
So it's very possible that they seen something, like article or something of what you did in Sweden, and ran with it, right? But they were very successful. It was. I don't know if they're even public now or not, but they did really well with Seek Considers, and it was the same model. It was you know doing background checks, verifying the babysitter, making sure they're safe, and they
yeah.
even had I think they did some runoffs on it, meaning I think they even had like house sitters and dog sitters that
Mm.
they would do on top of babysitting, right? So
Yeah, that's cool. But I think actually you guys were a lot earlier. Like most things, like Sweden look a lot. We look a lot at the US, and the ones that are trending in the US will come to Sweden like a few years after.
it
Except
works
the
both
tech,
ways, though. Yeah.
yeah, except the tech world is really popping right now in Stockholm. So here we're at the forefront. But I think babysitting has. I mean, when I lived in the US, I worked as a babysitter, and so it has been for a long time. But I think in Sweden it wasn't really an industry because it was so expensive, because it's so much taxes on services in Sweden, that it wasn't feasible until the government stepped in and kind of reduced the tax burden on these kind of services, and then it was booming. I mean, it was before, but then you kind of paid the babysitter under the table and that kind of stuff, and so it wasn't really professionalized until this incentive came.
Awesome. So we're at 45 minutes. Let's talk a little bit about what you're looking for now and how people reach out and find you.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're gonna post somewhere my LinkedIn profile and email and that kind of stuff, or if I should just say it here. like yeah, there. So I think the best way is just to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Right now, we are looking at HVAC companies in the UK for sure. We're looking at software companies in the UK as well because we're buying a software company there. We're buying another software company in Norway, so there we're also looking at software companies and information management system companies, I think they're called. For me personally, we're going to buy a gardening company here now. Not only landscaping, they actually have like 45 machines that are plowing snow and like building whole gardens for like bigger building projects and that kind of stuff. So this is more B2B landscaping stuff.
Land
Like,
prep, commercial landscaping, then, right?
yeah,
And
I
do
think,
site
yeah,
prep and stuff. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Versus my previous company, that was more like taking care of people's gardens at home. This is bigger and it's quite fun with the machines and stuff. I've never owned companies that have machines, but
Yeah.
they look fun. Uh, but we're also looking at, of course, opportunities. We want to do roll ups. We really see like the leverage is it's incredible. Yeah, when you do roll ups, the value just go up like crazy. Like we talked about with the size, but also using cross synergies and that kind of stuff. So we're looking at all businesses that we see opportunities in. Of course, also looking to JV, joint ventures with really cool people that want to do the same thing and just to have fun. I think my first business ventures, I was a little bit too serious. It was like life or death. I was young and it really exploded too fast for me in the beginning, and I was very just overwhelmed for like 10 years. Now I'm like, I hopefully that I'm a little bit smarter and more mature and have more like experience. So I just want to find really fun people, fun businesses, and just pretty much have fun doing it. That's how it should be. Otherwise, it's not worth it.
So one of the things we've been talking about this whole conversation is buying businesses to grow your business, buying businesses to merge them together and create a space in the industry. One thing we didn't mention is it doesn't necessarily have to be expensive, right? You've bought and
No,
sold some businesses. It's very likely you have some money put away in investments and stuff. It's not common, and I don't know about but it's not common for acquisitions or mergers, guys. We're not writing checks out of our own bank accounts to
no,
do this, right?
no, no. That's
Usually
the thing.
it's either creative, like a very
Yeah,
creative structured thing where the owner's financing it, or it's bank backed, or personally, I'll reach out to other investors and raise money before I would
yeah.
liquidate assets or take money out of stuff I've already invested in other stuff to acquire another business. So
Yeah, and I think that's another misconception that it's really expensive, and it's not because you're leveraging the owner's money, seller financing, you're leveraging banks, investors, and other creative things. So
yep.
it's and I think that's why the PE firms have made so much money. They're using leverage on everything. So that's why, yeah, it's a mindset shift you can do. And if you want to go into the route of buying distressed companies, then I know people that are getting companies for free pretty much because the entrepreneurs are so tired and just want to get rid of their company. So I know a lot of people that have bought companies for a pound or nothing and just pretty much taking them over. Of course, that's another game, like rolling or turning around distressed
Yep.
companies. I think we
Right.
are looking more at really profitable businesses, but I think that's also a very lucrative way to go. And if you already have a profitable business, then I think it's easier to buy distressed businesses as well.
Yeah, I would venture into saying that be very cautious buying a distressed business if
Yeah,
you've got a profitable one because it doesn't take a very big hole to sink both ships,
yeah,
right?
true.
Right. But you
Yeah,
can also acquire something really affordable and grow. You were talking about 10% increase on the levers. You could really do a much larger increase on those levers
yeah, yeah.
by buying somebody primarily for their customer base, their asset list, and you know You're not necessarily having to turn them around as much as just offering their clients a different solution with your product, right? So
Yeah, but another tip, I think one of the mistakes I did with buying the toy company, and I think one of the most important lessons is to start with something that you know. It was the same thing when I started my first business. So when you start buying your first businesses, start with what you know. That's like a really, and then focus on being good at the skills you need to buy and roll up businesses. And once you buy a business, don't change too much in the beginning. Like people want to go in and they just want to change all this kind of stuff, and you're going to scare off everybody, and then you're scared off the whole value of the business. So just take it really slow, charm the pants of everybody, give them some, I don't know, Christmas holiday party or something, and just take it slow. Otherwise, it will not be good. And I think most people fail not buying the business. That's very easy, but actually after you bought the business, because that's when the real work starts, and you want to make sure you're not just ruining the whole business afterwards.
yeah, you could be really disruptive in a heartbeat, right?
Yeah,
And
very
it's it's interesting is a few of the businesses I've evaluated. You get in, you start meeting some of the other, um, I'm going to call it operators, the employees, and you know, I was talking to a guy on from the Harbor Club. He acquired something. He did a long time ago, but he acquired something and he went in and cleaned up a little bit, and he let go of the office manager. Well, it turns out the office manager was kind of the general manager. She ran
mm,
everything,
mm,
right? So nobody could do any more travel. I mean, everybody was lost without this person. And
yeah,
he was thinking, we don't need somebody sitting at the front desk answering the phone. I've got a call center. We're going to, put in place. He already owned this other thing that was a call center, and the phones will just be routed there. What they didn't realize is all the other stuff that lady did, right? Order the office supplies, arrange everybody's travel. She was pretty much an executive administrator or assistant for everybody, you know, that needed to travel, needed to do sales calls, needed to do everything, and it was very disruptive. And when he went to get her back, she already had another job and wouldn't come back.
yeah.
So I agree. Be careful what you change until you really know what's going on. Tell us, is there anything like what's one key point you want? If you could leave everybody with just one key point, what would that be?
Well, that is the POX formula. Like focus on profit, the company not being dependent on you, the business not tying up so much cash. Focus on growing the size by buying other businesses, and the structure, so that it's like a well-oiled machine. And I think you will do very well. And I'll be happy to help. Just reach out. I love helping entrepreneurs, and if you have a business you want to discuss, then yeah, just reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show. I'm going to end the stream now. Hang out with me for a minute. We'll chat
Yeah,
after. And I thank you very much for
thank
being
you.
here with me. All right. The Investors and Entrepreneurs Professional Mastermind. The Investors and Entrepreneurs Professional Mastermind combines the traditional peer-to-peer mastermind introduced first in Napoleon Hill's famous book, Think and Grow Rich, with accountability partnering, where your peers help you ensure that you set goals, take actions, and get results. If you want to scale, blow past roadblocks, and achieve success faster than you might think is possible, I suggest you take a visit over to tiepm.com. That's tiepm.com and check out the Investors and Entrepreneurs Professional Mastermind.